Eric wrote in his book that his character had a lot of heat and it was just natural. Is that the understatement of the history of the business or what?
Eric gets heat ordering at a restaurant.
Why is that? Why do you think he inevitably just rubs so many people the wrong way? Myself not included. I have met Eric several times and found him to be delightful every time. He enjoys talking about the business aspect of the business. And as you know, from listening to this show, I'm a nerd for that. So we get along great. I'm sure if we ever did a podcast like this, I would fucking hate his guts because he's very PC and doesn't want to give a straight answer and kind of dances around. But as far as just hanging out, having a beer, talking about the business when he's not on the record, he's a pretty fucking cool guy. But why does he rub so many others the wrong way?
I think because he's just short and to the point and can be abrupt sometimes. But it's once you get to know him, you find him to be quite charming and a really nice, fun guy. Like I said, to sit down and have a few beers with, even in business. And I worked with him in business for quite a while. He's really bright, got some great ideas, but he's just very direct and to the point. And some people have a hard time dealing with that. And he could be a little more tactful sometimes in dealing with people, I think. And that may have been what gave him the reputation in WCW. He didn't always maybe choose his words as nicely as some people would have liked.
He wrote in his book, quote, "I'm as apolitical as possible. I don't hang out with too many people. I'm a loner. For the most part, when I show up, I read a book or work on my computer and stay out of everybody else's way." Can you speak to that?
Yeah, it was great because he did all of that in the TV office, which was a set that we always had at all the TVs, and I knew exactly where to find him. He wasn't out bullshitting and hanging around in catering or hanging around up in the stands and doing something else. I knew exactly where he was. He was on that's what he did. He would sit there and read a book or work on his computer. I'd walk in, say, "You ready to go?" He'd close his computer, and we'd go to work.
Bischoff came back to TV on September 25th, 2006 to promote his new book, Controversy Creates Cash. He did a pretty hot promo on McMahon saying, "Without Monday Nitro, there would be no Monday Night Raw. Without the NWO, there would be no DX. And without Aaron Bischoff, there would be no Vincent Kennedy McMahon." After which Bischoff's mic was completely cut off and he was escorted from the arena by security. A few days later, JBL conducted a 4-part interview with Bischoff, further discussing his book on WWE.com. Who is the person in charge at the time in 2006 of saying, "Hey, we're going to write a book with this guy, or we want this guy to be a book. This guy would be a good fit"? Cause I know you guys had a book partner and you pushed them really hard on TV to make sure they were a success. And this bit was obviously written there to drum up some interest, and it worked. It made the New York Times bestseller list, just like everything you guys put out at the time.
The book project was part of the original deal coming in because Vince picked Eric's brain. And while he didn't say, "Okay, Eric, you're going to be a part of creative," or "We want to bring you in to do stuff," Vince picked his brain about what he did at WCW and would just kind of bounce things off of Eric from time to time. So they had that kind of a relationship. So the book was a project that had been ongoing, and we had written him off of TV, but we wanted to have the book get as much publicity as it could. So that was the whole idea behind bringing him back and putting him on TV and doing this kind of promo. And by cutting off his microphone, it's like, oh, he didn't get to say what he wanted to say. So if you want to know what he wanted to say, you got to buy the book. The philosophy behind that.
It was around this same time, in 2006, you guys were celebrating Jerry Briscoe's 60th birthday. He turned 60 on the 19th, and this led to a pretty fun story that you've told me before in private. Kind of share with everybody the incident with Eric Bischoff and Jerry Briscoe celebrating his 60th birthday.
Well, we knew Eric was coming back and was going to be doing something. And I think Eric had just been informed at that TV. And Eric sent me a text saying, "Hey, Bruce, how's everything going? Looks like I'll be seeing you in a couple weeks." I sent back, "Hey, it's great. Celebrating Jerry Briscoe's 60th birthday tonight." And he sent back a text, wow, Jerry's 60. Maybe I can take him now. Well, being the wonderful human being that I am, I felt that I should share that with Jerry. And especially knowing that Eric is coming back. Now, I didn't tell Jerry that Eric was coming back, so I had a couple of weeks to kind of fan those flames. About, yeah, well, Jerry, you're lucky Bischoff's not here because he'd whip your ass. And it goes on, and we started the first Jerry's actual birthday. I think it was me, Jerry, and the Undertaker that went out and celebrated that night. The next week, it was me, Jerry, Bradshaw, and Taker that went out. So now it's coming up on the third celebration of, well, it's just, goddamn it, we're going to celebrate Jerry's 60th birthday again. And this is the night that Eric is going to be in town. I said, oh, great, man. We'll all go out. We'll celebrate Jerry's birthday. We'll have a good time. So on this particular night, Jerry's obviously there. Layfield's there. John Cena joins us. And Eric joins us. And Coach might have been there. Might have been one or two other people that I remember. But this was Tulsa, Oklahoma, at the Radisson at the airport. And we all were sitting in the bar. We were sitting in chairs. They were serving us drinks, beer mainly. And we drank every single beer that they had in the bar.
Who all's there?
Said Layfield, Cena, me, Jerry, Bischoff, and maybe a couple other guys.
So 6 guys drank all the beer.
Yes.
Roll Tide on that.
And they literally ran out of beer. So now we start drinking keg beer, whatever you got on tap. Just pour it and bring it. So I felt at the appropriate time, after enough of us were lubricated, to just re-bring up that, hey, Eric, remember a couple weeks ago when I told you it's Jerry's birthday, man, and you said you could whip his ass? He says, what? I never said I could whip his ass. I said, oh, I'm pretty sure that's what it said. He goes, no, I just said that, now that he's 60, I might have a chance. So, so you could definitely whip his ass now that he's 60. Which, feeding the likes of John Cena and John Layfield that tidbit of information is like feeding hungry dogs that haven't eaten in a week steak. And we all just start on and on. And Eric, bless his heart, can't help himself and finally makes a statement like, guys, I get it. I get it. Amateur wrestler. He's done this, done that. But how tough can he be? We started moving furniture. We moved tables out of the way. We backed the chairs up. Said, come on, let's go. Come on, y'all, let's wrestle. So Eric is like, no, I don't got, guys, come on. I don't want. And Jerry stands up, come on, pussy. And Eric and Jerry, Eric just stands up. Now, Jerry, and he's kind of like begging off. And Jerry goes to take him down. But when Jerry goes to take him down, essentially, Eric just sits down, which means it was kind of in an amateur wrestling event, Eric would have scored the point at that point because Briscoe couldn't do anything with him. So being the goddamn amateur wrestling aficionado that I am, I had to bring that up. That, you guys can stop now and probably should because essentially, Jerry, he just whipped your ass. He scored a point on the legendary Jerry Briscoe. And now Jerry's livid. He's pissed. And Eric is like, goddamn, man, he's 60 years old. We're the same size. I wrestled in high school. For some reason, Eric stood up again. And when he did, he went down about as fast as he stood up. And Jerry takes him down. And now I've had my ass whooped by Jerry Briscoe thousands of times. just because I always think there's that one day I'm going to be able to take him.
I saw a 2-time NCAA champion get double-legged in a bar 2 years ago by Jerry Briscoe.
Yeah.
Half his age.
Yes.
Dumped on his head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Jerry now has Eric down, and he's doing this shit where he cups his hand and he slaps you in the face and essentially smothers you. And right when you're about to pass out, he lets go, and you get a gasp of air, and you think, oh my God, I'm going to live. And then this big paw comes across your face again and, well, just pop and swats you, and you're out of breath again. And so Jerry has Eric tied up, and Eric is like, tap out, tap out. Well, there's another famous story that I'll tell some other time, but the gist of it is that Jerry had a big loudmouth Texan from Athens, Texas, who was the longest reigning world champion on SmackDown. Goes by 3 initials. I'm not going to mention any names. And had him in a position to tap out. And when he said, I tap out, Jerry, I tap out, Jerry says, tap out like you mean it, pussy. So when Eric is down and Eric is tapping out, Jerry starts to let him go. There might have been an asshole in the group that got down on the floor with him. And I got right in Eric's face. And I said, hang on. Tap out like you mean it, pussy. And Eric proceeded to tap out like he meant it. And that was the famous Radisson bar, drinking every beer in the bar. And by the way, we drank all of the taps dry.
That's outstanding.
That. But yeah, Jerry Briscoe is somebody that you don't want to fuck with. He's past 65 now, and I still wouldn't fuck with him. I mean, I will, but I'll probably get my ass whooped.
You'll do it by text or Skype.
Yes.
Bischoff,
Skype's a little scary because he can see me.
Few last appearances here on Raw. We mentioned the book promotion in November of 2006. He was a special guest referee at Cyber Sunday for DX versus the Rated RKO match. He actually won a vote to be the special guest referee, and then he cheated DX out of the win, and the next night was reinstated as GM for one night only, and he was super heel, doing all the heel stuff, restarting matches he didn't like the outcome for, put Maria in a match with Umaga, banned DX from the building, etc., etc. And he made another appearance on Raw after WrestleMania 23. This one was on March 7th. He's here to embarrass McMahon for losing to Trump and getting his head shaved. And he was back one last time on December 10th for the 15th anniversary special of Raw. This time he was confronted by Chris Jericho, who he had fired on Raw a couple years prior. Was he under contract for all of that stuff, or were any of those just one-off appearances you guys called him in for?
At a certain point, there were one-off appearances that we just brought him back for.
Always professional to deal with, always in and out, did his job, very professional. Any sort of fun little stories you can share about any of those?
No, he was a piece of cake. He was easy and professional throughout his entire tenure there.
In 2009, Eric joined TNA, and we will talk about that a lot on our episodes that are available in the archives. We've got 2 episodes there for you, part 1 and part 2. They're interesting because Bischoff is one of the guys who helped first get you involved in TNA. Do I have that right, Bruce?
Yeah, Eric is the one that called me and asked me, hey, what the hell are you doing? I think the first thing out of his mouth was, hey, do you have any heat with Vince Russo? But then we worked together there for a few years.
What do you think is Eric Bischoff's legacy in professional wrestling?
Being the guy to knock Vince off the pedestal for a while and creating the NWO.
Don't you think that's a little short-sighted? I don't think he gets enough credit for all the stuff he did. He brought, Live to Monday Night. He introduced us to the cruiserweights. He involved an air of unpredictability, and there's so many little things that I think people overlook about stuff that he kind of innovated and brought to the business. Would you agree with that?
Well, I'd agree with some of it. I think that when you talk about the one thing for his legacy, I think what he's going to be remembered the most for is being the one to knock Vince off the pedestal, because there was for so long, Vince was the guy. WWF, it was the brand.
Still is.
And he came in and challenged that and was able to compete and beat them for a long time. He changed a lot of things. The industry would not be what it is today had Eric not done that. As you said, the guaranteed contracts. We were doing live TV with Raw before he came in, but when he did it head up against us, it forced us to compete and to fight even harder.
Absolutely.
And without that challenge and without that competition, I don't know that we would have been as motivated to change and do what we had to do to compete. So, yeah, there's a lot of things, but when you talk about that one thing, it all stems from him being able to knock Vince off that pedestal and say, fuck you guys, and win.
Well, let's get to some listener questions. If you'd like to ask us questions about our shows, you can do it one of a few different ways. One, you could join WHWRadio.com and post in our forum, or of course, you could check us out on Facebook. It's Facebook.com/something to wrestle. But maybe best of all, just reply to our tweets. We actually send a tweet out every week once we know what the poll winner is and ask if you're going to have any follow-up questions. Well, we encourage you to go throw us a follow at Prichard Show right now. We actually made such a post earlier this week on May 23rd, early in the morning, and we asked what happened when hell froze over and Bischoff came to the WWE. Have a question for Bruce Prichard? Just reply to this tweet and listen Friday. So here we are. We're going to run through some questions here, rapid fire. Why did they blow off the surprise with a somewhat throwaway Booker T backstage segment? Lots of people wanted to know this. The original question came to us from a listener named Glenn. And what he's referencing is on the debut in 2002, there is a tease where you see him backstage before he emerges. In my head, I'm just going to freestyle an answer here, that they did that tease so people would call their buddies and say, you've got to turn it to Raw.
That's it.
Okay. RJ has a great question here. Do you think Eric will ever be inducted into the Hall of Fame? And if so, will he go by himself or as part of the NWO?
I think Eric should be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I think eventually he will be.
I mean, I think he's got to be, right?
Yeah, I definitely do. And I don't think it should be a part of the NWO. I think he deserves to be in there on his own.
When Vince Russo came back for a couple of days in 2002, did he have any discussions about what the plans might be for Bischoff?
You know, Russo came in for one day, one meeting. I wasn't there for it. And I don't recall anybody coming back and saying anything about Bischoff, any ideas from Russo involving Bischoff at all.
JR, the Irish Mexican, wants to know, what would Jim Cornette say to Vince about bringing Eric to the WWE?
An Irish Mexican?
Yeah, it's a thing. The company stayed at a hotel for SummerSlam in Brooklyn a few years ago, or I guess 2 years ago. And the only restaurant on property was an Irish Mexican restaurant. It was the weirdest menu I've ever been to. So apparently it is a thing. Anyway, let's get
Goddamn, fuck that motherfucker coming in. He can lick my dick.
Oh,
that's probably what he'd say.
That escalated. The Villain's Demand.
I'll escalate your ass in a minute, Conrad.
I want to hear.
How did I all of a sudden become Clint from Poughkeepsie?
I don't know. From Hershey. I want to hear ideas Eric had that were shot down.
I don't remember any ideas that Eric had that were shot down. You know, he wasn't necessarily in that loop to be presenting ideas. I think that Vince, picked his brain about what he did in WCW and the inner workings and working with Ted Turner and some of the television deals. But other than that, I don't know any ideas that were necessarily shot down by him.
Chris Sweet wants to know, whose idea was 3-minute warning? I'd love to hear a little more about them.
3-minute warning was something to do with Rosie and Jamal. They were a team that we were trying to think, how can we bring these guys in, not have them be a stereotypical Samoan tag team. 3 minutes is way too long for them to have a match. And it just kind of evolved from there. I want to say that it was Brian that originally did it. It was either Brian or Michael Hayes that came up with the idea to do these quick bursts and just have them come in and interrupt shit and destroy and make a statement and get the hell out.
Jess the Barber had kind of a smart ass question here, so I want to ask it, but he did want to know about the relationship between Eric and Hulk Hogan. Did you ever have a conversation with Eric about their relationship? Because they seem like they're pretty good friends in real life, even to this day.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they grew a friendship from working together for many years, and they're friends to this day. So yeah, they're great friends.
Brian on Twitter asked a question I kind of forgot about. When Bischoff first appeared, he came out to AC/DC's Back in Black, but it was soon replaced by the song I'm Back. What happened?
We only had the rights to I'm Back in Black for a couple plays. That was it.
I thought you were going to say that. I know that you don't like to talk about money, but freestyle a guess. What would licensing Back in Black for one play cost? Just guess.
I don't know, but here's the thing with that. During the time, and in that time frame, or maybe a little bit before that, we found out that AC/DC were huge fans.
Oh wow!
And if you remember when Rock did Saturday Night Live and AC/DC was the guest. Oh, they did a private concert for the boys and everything earlier in the day, and just sat there and played, and everybody was blown away, and then became friendly with some of the guys. So it was kind of a brother-in-law deal. You still got to pay for rights, but I think it was a brother-in-law deal, and got to do it for a couple times.
GP wanted to know, why did Eric Bischoff never have a significant Wrestlemania angle? It's almost like he was banned from having a Wrestlemania moment.
I think he was involved in everything that he was during the time as Raw GM. So, I mean, he was.
Hot Rod on Twitter wants to know, please talk about Eric Bischoff taking the Bronco Buster from Mae Young at Bad Blood 03. This feels like there's a rib in here, and I need to hear the story.
Why would you think that?
I feel like she put sardines in her underwear and did the Bronco Buster.
It wasn't sardines. It was gigantic, like fucking full life-size fish. Not little sardines, man. Gigantor fish. Vince thought it would be funny if May stuffed her crotch with fish. Really old, disgusting, smelly, stinky fish. And hit Eric with the Bronco Buster and mash her pelvis region into his face and get the fish all up on him. And for Eric to think, wow, what a stinky, but it was actually real fish. The thing that pissed me off about it was I'm up at Gorilla, and I need Moolah and May up at Gorilla to send them out to do the goddamn deal. And May waited till the last minute to put the fish in her crotch, and I got Moolah up there going, honey, May's still putting the fish in her thing. I'm like, oh, God. It's just one of those moments. I want to say that was in Houston. Wasn't it in Houston?
I don't remember.
I don't know, but I remember that distinctly, and I remember May coming back and lifting her dress, and just the eyeballs of these fish looking at you. It was quite the sight.
Tommy on Twitter wants to know, was there any heat for his book, Controversy Creates Cash? He did a good job burying some folks in there, so that's worth asking.
Not that I recall. I mean, guys, whoever the hell he buried, they might have been pissed off at him, but I don't know internally there was any heat. It did well. Made money with it.
Sean Gill wants to know, the Macho Man and Stephanie McMahon rumors, are they rumors and innuendo correct? Well, I would encourage you to go listen to our Mega Powers episode in the archives. We get that question all the time, guys, but it's out there. It's in the Mega Powers episode. Go check it out. Dan on Twitter wants to know, did you ever talk to Bischoff about what his motivation was for going to WWE? Besides money, obviously, what did he have to gain? Do you feel like Bischoff wasn't really happy with the way he kind of left wrestling, and this gave him an opportunity to change the narrative or give people another look or another opinion or a new lease on him in the business? Or did y'all ever have any sort of discussion like that?
No, we really didn't. You'd have to ask Eric what his motivation was there. I think it was just simply a gig, an opportunity to get out there and get his name back in public and have some fun. at that point, but I really don't know what his motivation was.
Francis on Twitter wants to know, did you guys have a plan B if Bischoff did not want to come in? Who would have been the Raw GM?
Shane and Steph.
Yeah, we covered that one. Danger Russ wants to know, did they ever entertain the idea of putting McMahon versus Bischoff? That kind of seems like a no-brainer that at some point on one of these pay-per-views, they could have just booked that. Why didn't that happen?
Vince wasn't interested in doing it. Didn't think that people wanted to see an old man and a non-wrestler. It's different with Vincent and Austin, Vince getting his ass kicked. I don't think Vince didn't feel that people wanted to see him kick a non-wrestler's ass.
Here's a fun one from Nick. Did Bischoff ever lobby for WCW to have a one night only pay-per-view similar to the way ECW did?
No.
Was there ever any consideration given to that?
Nope.
Okay. We got a follow-up question here about SummerSlam 03, his match against Shane McMahon. Do you have any recollection of that?
Other than Shane just beat the shit out of him. I don't think that Eric was expecting that. It was pretty rough, man. They beat the hell out of each other. And I think that Eric came back, thought he got hit by a Mack truck. Shane's a little snug.
So, hey, I guess we were wrong. Bischoff and McMahon did have a match February of 04. It's not really a match though. It goes to a no contest. Brock Lesnar comes out of the crowd and hits an F5 on the special guest referee, Steve Austin. So it wasn't really a payoff. What do you remember about Survivor Series 05 versus Teddy Long?
Gaga. Yeah, it was just Gaga for Gaga's sake. And the two warring general managers, Teddy wasn't a worker and Teddy couldn't do any physicality. So it was just anything that Eric did, with the exception really of that Shane match, it was just, Gaga to get through it, do a little physicality and get out of there.
You ever talk to Bischoff about, this comes from JJ. He basically asked, do you ever talk to Bischoff about the way, the WWE kind of changes the narrative about what really happened with WCW in the Monday Night Wars? They kind of just sweep WCW under the rug a little bit. But because of One Night Stand and they made it a promotion, they kind of championed ECW.
I don't think that's necessarily true. And the winners always rewrite history. So
you agree it's been rewritten?
I agree that it's written in the WWF narrative. Yes. And
okay.
I think that Eric agrees with that as well.
Sure. What was the relationship like, at least once he was there, between Bischoff and Heyman?
Cordial. Professional. They weren't going out drinking together that I know of, but it was professional and cordial.
Stuart wants to know, did the Undertaker have any heat with Bischoff when he came in? Feels like he would have been on Undertaker's shit list from the WCW days.
No, not at all.
Whose idea was it to have Eric dye his hair black? When we saw him last in WCW, he had gray hair. Thomas wants to know, why did he debut with black hair?
He dyed his hair. I don't know.
Yes, it's not
like, Eric, you've got to come back with
okay.
Dark brown hair. He just dyed his hair.
Well, you say that like that's a silly assumption, but you guys would flip out if a guy cut his hair. So,
yeah,
I think it's fair to ask.
No, it's not.
Okay. Thank you.
Damn it.
Here's a fun question. As Bruce and Eric are both skilled in the martial arts, has Bruce ever sparred with Eric?
I'd kill him. I'm a 3-time black belt Hall of Famer.
Was Eric ever asked to do the Mr. McMahon Kiss My Ass Club? That comes to us from Jeremy. Allegedly, there's rumor out there that he was asked to and he refused.
No, I thought he did. You sure you didn't do it? I don't know, but I don't ever remember him refusing to do anything.
Jeremy wants to know, why did you guys break up Austin and Bischoff and their angle as co-GMs with Austin as a sheriff? It was one of the best parts of Raw.
Everything runs its course, man.
Yeah.
That shit was some funny stuff, man. It was a blast.
Whose idea was it to put Coachman with Bischoff? That comes to us from Dominic.
That was probably Brian. It was just simply to utilize Coachman more. He had some good personality, and they had good chemistry together. Same thing with Sean Morley. We put Sean in there too, and allowed him to get his personality and get him away from the Val Venus stuff. And he and Eric had good chemistry as well.
Christopher on Twitter wants to know, did Eric Bischoff come up with the Elimination Chamber?
No.
Who did?
I believe, I think Hunter did in a variation. Like maybe Hunter or Michael Hayes, but we were talking about trying to do a different style of match, and could we come up with some kind of a contraption? And it was a conglomeration of a lot of different ideas, but I know Hunter always loved the war games and liked the cage. But I think that they finally sent it out to some people to come up with some concepts, and the Elimination Chamber concept was born. But we talked about having, for lack of a better term, penalty box things at ringside, and guys are locked in the cage until they're released at a certain time. And it just was an evolution.
KBSD wants to know, how did Bischoff get hired, but Shivani is still blackballed?
Shivani's blackballed?
I thought you were going to say because Bischoff is talented. So thank you for not saying that.
Well, that's the real answer. I was trying to be nice, but because Bischoff's talented and Tony's not.
I didn't say that. You did.
I know. I just said
it. David wants to know, could you really stand this arrogant SOB? Was he as bad as Jerry Jarrett?
Who? What? Was
our show's
Eric
about Eric Bischoff
as bad as Jerry Jarrett? They're not even in the same fucking universe. I'd spend the rest of my life with Eric Bischoff versus having to spend another 5 minutes with Jerry Jarrett.
David on Twitter wants to know, I know Bruce and Bischoff are good friends, but how much money did Bischoff get paid to come to WWE? I assumed he was set for life after WCW. And yes, I know I just asked a question about money.
So you know what the answer is then, pal?
Why did the Bischoff-Stephanie kiss never go anywhere? Comes to us from Frank.
Well, Frank, because it's what we call the one-off. You know, kind of like one night stand. We just call them one-offs in the business. Well, you know.
Did you ever have a conversation with Bischoff about Triple H running through the entire WCW roster in 2003? Booker T, Kevin Nash, Goldberg, Scott Steiner.
No, I've never had that conversation with him.
Did Jim Johnston do the I'm Back theme? That comes to us from Eric.
I believe so, yes.
What sort of input would you guys have had? I mean, did you just tell him he's coming back and Jim keeps up with the business enough to come up with that on his own? Or do you like send some notes and some ideas? Do you know how that works?
It was based off of the Back in Black theme song. And I'm back, and, you know, back in black, I hit the sag, I've been too long, glad to be back, cause I'm getting loose, from loose, that's kept me hanging around, that's gonna get me high. I got the hearse cause I never die. I got 9 lives, cat size, usually never would have been a wonder why, cause I'm back. And he used that as well, I'm back. Yeah. Bet you guys didn't know you can get a little AC/DC on.
We hope to be back next week with original content, man. I got my notes. I'm ready. I'm trying. Trish Stratus, we're still going to get to. We're still going to get to Undertaker 98, 99. But before you know it, it's WrestleMania season, baby. And WrestleMania 12 is coming up next on our WrestleMania docket. But we hope to be back next week here talking a little Undertaker from 98 and 99 right here on Something to Wrestle With, Bruce Prichard.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.